welcome to another episode of Did You Know You're Wrong and Stupid? And the subject of today's stupidity is none other than our good old friend Sverige, the anti-vegan psychopath who likes to eat raw squirrels in public. Now, I haven't talked about Sverige in quite a while, but his personal life has been quite the soap opera, or should I say crime drama, because Sverige got his girlfriend pregnant. She broke up with him, and then in retaliation, Sverige paid somebody to kill her by throwing acid on her and firebombing her house. And then Sverige subsequently fled to Asia. Presumably, he's somewhere in Thailand, and he's now wanted by Interpol. Am I going too fast for you? Don't worry, we're going to cover all of this in today's video. Now, of course, Sverige doesn't have a job. He hasn't been employed in over a decade, and his only two sources of income are literally e-begging. He just begs for money, and people give him money. And two, he has a Telegram channel, which is subscription-based, so he gets a little bit of money from that. Now, unfortunately for Sverige, all of this information about how he tried to kill his ex-girlfriend with acid has gotten out into the public, and his subscribers are starting to notice, and he's starting to lose money. People are unsubscribing from his Telegram channel, and people aren't just throwing money at him. So Sverige is trying to do damage control, which is why he uploaded a video titled Lawsuit Against a Child Kidnapper and Molester. So Sverige is coming up with lies and trying to misinform his audience into thinking that he's the victim in the situation and he never tried to kill his ex-girlfriend with acid. And before we get into debunking all of Sverige's nonsense, we have to cover some important backstory of Sverige and Luna's relationship. So back in the year 2020, Sverige and Luna were still together, and Luna had just given birth to their son. And Sverige had the bright idea of scamming his subscribers out of rent money. Sverige had the idea of renting out a house with a few of his subscribers and convincing them to pay the rent so that he could basically freeload and not pay anything. Well, that whole plan backfired when he got jealous that Luna, his girlfriend, was speaking to another man in the house. And of course, I made a whole video about this a few years ago. So he was mad that Luna and me spent most of the time together as we speak the same language and everyone else was always busy. So he kicked us out first with the baby. After that, the others helped us get a hotel and food with the car. Then he got mad at them for no reason. So basically, this all started because Sverige was mad that someone was spending time with his girlfriend. Basically, he got jealous, and then he got mad at everyone else because they were helping that other guy and his girlfriend. Pretty crazy, yeah. So then, this is the next post in this Instagram story. Nope, Luna's back with him. He threatened to kill himself on the next live stream if she didn't come back, and then when she did, he threatened her with a hammer, apparently, and cut her hair off. She messages Cedric to call the cops, and he did. Then when they came, she said everything was fine. Now apparently Cedric is in Turkey and told the others to call the cops because Luna is in danger. So, of course, after this incident, Luna broke up with Sverige. She took the child and fled to the Netherlands, where she was hiding from him. She was able to get a home, but Sverige then hired a private investigator to find out where Luna was so that he could plan for the next attack.
And it was a month before this happened that Gatis got a Bitcoin donation, supposedly for vegan events in Europe, which he was never gonna do, and he knew that already at the time. And I already feared that want to use it against me, or like, yeah, kill us. I didn't know exactly what, and it had been a bit quiet for months now, since he was at our door in the end of 2021, after we had been in a shelter, after he had been on my cameras with Catherine and Florian at the back of my fence, They had found my address through a private detective.
So this is the lady that literally like would sit there and eat like the grossest crap ever with this psychopath. Um, Pretty weird.
And not even a month after we had moved in, we had to go into hiding.
So, after discovering where Luna was hiding, Sverige then paid a hitman to assassinate Luna. The first assassination attempt, the hitman tried to kill her with acid, and the second assassination attempt, the hitman tried to kill her with fire, where he threw a Molotov cocktail into her son's bedroom. Now, the
Into her
images I'm about to
son's
show
bedroom.
you are disturbing, so if you're squeamish, you might want to turn away or skip ahead in the video. But I think it's very important for everyone to see this, just to see how sick and twisted Sverige really is, and the lengths he's willing to go to get revenge on somebody.
It is exactly 2 years ago since the acid attack on me happened, and I am very thankful that we are still here and I can share this with you. So on the 22nd of May 2022, I got attacked from behind when I was putting my bin out for collection, and they perpetually hit me with a nightstick on my head, my back, and my neck, resulting in severe spinal injuries, fractures to my skull, a broken nose, and a concussion. They then used the same nightstick to put by my throat against my own fence after they dragged me there, and then helped me there to pour acid in my face as well as over my body. And I am very
Wow.
thankful that I still have my arm, which was said to potentially have to be amputated. And as well, I can still see because thankfully I
Eventually
managed
had to
to
be
rinse as
amputated.
much acid out of my eyes, nose, and
Oh,
mouth as I
might have.
could
I
at
was
the
like,
time.
yeah,
Even
might.
enough so they,
Still,
1 month later, when it was said to be safe for us to return to our home, they threw a Molotov aimed at my son's bedroom and then eventually managed to put our home on fire in an attempt to kill my son and I. We have no more home. I have everyday struggles with physical impairments as well as severe PTSD, which I was going to get treatment for. They then set our home on fire. The only way to fix my breathing problems as well as the nose might have to be a cartilage transplant. I am seeking treatment for my spinal
lung transplant.
dislocation. I am looking into ways to get the third-degree burns treated. I have managed not
Carnist,
to lose
man.
my nipple as well, which sounds a bit strange, but it was almost falling off. Realizing during the attack that I might die and my son would have nobody. And I did whatever I could to stand up and fight back. I can still see and I still have my nipple and I am here to be able to take care of my son. We
Nipple?
managed to survive 2 whole years and I'm thankful
What sounds like?
to be able to share this with you. It would astonish most people to hear that the perpetrators behind the attacks are still putting content out on social media and acting like nothing happens. Fortunately, there are some really kind and wonderful individuals spreading the message and letting the world know, and I am very thankful.
And of course, now that this information has been made public, Sverige is doing damage control and making up lies about Luna, making himself out to be the victim. Now, Sverige's video is over an hour long, so I can't respond to every single moment in the video, but I am going to pick out some points that I think are most pertinent, most important. And I'm going to show you that Sverige is a manipulative liar, and he's just trying to scam his audience out of more money.
Unfortunately, I have to bring up this topic again now because I'm pretty much forced to do it, and that's because I need to file one, possibly multiple lawsuits against somebody, which is my ex. ex-girlfriend or my abuser. I always used to call her my abuser even when we were together still. Let's just call her Demon because that's the only thing I ever called her. I used to be together with this girl, and we had a child together, which is probably one of the main reasons we even stayed together.
So notice how Sverige is choosing not to mention Luna by her name and instead is referring to her as my ex-girlfriend or this person. And he's doing this deliberately because he doesn't want anybody finding out who Luna is. Because if they search Luna on YouTube or Google, they're going to find out that Sverige tried to kill her multiple times with acid and with a fire attack. This is irrefutable. This actually happened. This is being covered by the news. Luna has come out and spoken about this and shared the photos of the acid burns. Sverige has no defense against this, so the only thing he's trying to do now is prevent more people from finding out about this and acting as though this has never happened. And throughout this entire hour-long video, Sverige never even mentions the attempted murder allegations. So he's just trying to keep this all under wraps and act as though it never happened so that he can still get donations from the few subscribers that he has left that are supporting him.
Firstly, what you need to understand is that she was diagnosed with borderline, officially, that's official, and depression. I don't know if anything more. Obviously, if you know anything about her, she's obviously a sociopath. There's no psychological term for that. I guess it is antisocial personality disorder. She can't stand people. She really hates people in general. She's never around any people, and I would diagnose her with narcissism for obvious reasons. She's a textbook narcissist, as in she hits every point.
So Sverige is trying to attack Luna's character and make it seem as though she's the one who suffers from some kind of mental illness like borderline personality or psychopathy to make himself out to be the victim. Of course, Sverige has no evidence of this. He doesn't have a doctor's diagnosis. He doesn't even have any video footage to show in support of his claim. However, we do have evidence that Sverige has a long history of mental health disorders. Back when he was 16 years old in high school, Sverige committed a mass stabbing where he stabbed 4 other students and was later institutionalized. Sverige himself even admits that he suffered from anorexia at one point, was hospitalized, and was craving human flesh and wanted to kill and eat people.
Seeing as we are all everything at all times, that meaning anything that is naturally human, we are also predators and cannibals at all times, always.
Don't we all occasionally crave human flesh? I thought that was a thing.
Intensive care, I talked about this in the video, sun gazing warning.
I don't know.
When I was really starved and then I started eating again, I wanted flesh so much that I actually wanted human flesh, and there's a reason for this. And I've been researching this whole thing for over a year now because of this experience. And I also saw people sun gazing, visions of it, and having
What happened to Braxton?
And eating them and such.
He wasn't here when I got here. But who is this guy? What?
The reason I mentioned this is because I was
All jokes
quite mad
aside.
at these doctors there because they were giving me this carbohydrate.
Sverige is an anti-vegan. He used to show
and he
up
literally
to
craved human flesh, huh?
vegan events and eat raw meat in front of everyone. He was that guy. Who
Oh,
started all
that's that prick?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't like him. What a douchebag.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool that stuff like this is coming out about him.
Yeah.
But are we really
There's a lot of
surprised
stuff
that...
going wrong there. That's why I actually wanted to
Nope.
just bite one of them and eat them. Looking back at this, it doesn't seem weird at all. But actually, generally, now since I've been eating raw meat, I don't find it weird in any way at all. It's actually really quite natural.
So Sverige is lying about Luna being mentally ill. Sverige is the one who is suffering from mental illness, and he is just projecting this onto Luna, which is actually a pretty common symptom of narcissism. And this is a common theme throughout Sverige's video, where he constantly projects his own negative attributes onto Luna and lies about her to make himself out to be the victim.
It was January 2021. I broke up with her. 2 main reasons being all the stuff that I've mentioned also in the past and what I just mentioned, and she tried to kill me, blind me multiple times, threw sharp objects at my eyes.
Again, this is an obvious case of projection. Luna never tried to kill Sverige. Sverige is the one who tried to kill Luna. He is just projecting his own negative attributes onto Luna. We also know that Luna is the one who broke up with Sverige after he threatened to kill her in Romania. These are just more lies.
there's a video of her attacking me in a live stream. This was, I believe, the 40K subs or 42K subs, whatever live stream on my old channel. What happened was that I don't know exactly the details as to what I said and what she said, but she was, as you could also see in the live stream, it's probably uploaded online, I'm pretty sure. She was disrespecting me in front of everybody while I was live streaming. She was in bed and insulting me and disrupting the live stream nonstop. I told her to shut the fuck up or something like that. No, it wasn't polite to say that because she was disrespecting me in front of everybody, obviously. I just said back what she said to me, essentially. Just nature, right? Somebody attacks you, you attack them back. It's just animal nature. What happened then, though, and this is on video.
Again, this is another lie. Luna was never abusing Sverige. Luna never attacked Sverige on a live stream. And that video clip he showed of Luna with a knife, that was Luna trying to get Sverige to leave her alone after he had been stalking her in the Netherlands. Again, Sverige has no evidence of this. He has no video footage from the live stream, and he took this clip of Luna out of context to make it seem as though she's the abuser. Why is this clip only like 5 seconds long? It's because Sverige was stalking Luna, he was recording the incident, and he just cherry-picked this clip out of context to make it seem as though Luna was the abuser. And again, we know that Sverige had been abusing Luna from the beginning of the relationship. He, in fact, almost killed her after only a few months of dating because Sverige attacked her in the forest because he wanted to show Luna that he was masculine.
That year in 2018, he was gonna record a video in the forest, and I was in the forest with him. I tied my shoelaces, and all of a sudden I was passed out, and I had no idea what happened. I woke up from that being incredibly confused. I couldn't even remember my own phone number, and that's really unlike me because I generally like to know people's phone numbers. So me not knowing my phone number was really like weird to me, and I didn't know what happened. All I knew is that I got there with Gatis, and then something happened to me. So I called the police because I was all alone in Berlin in the forest. I did not speak German at the time, and so they could hardly follow what I was saying. Then the ambulance came and police as well, and I tried to explain as well as I could while being severely concussed. I was incredibly confused, and I apparently later turned out at the hospital could have died right then and there, and said it was basically the first attempted murder. I wanted to leave once I found out what happened because of the concussion, and I had to go somewhere. It was getting late that day. It was already starting to get dark. The police did not follow what I was saying. In the hospital, they did not follow what I was saying, and Gatis told me to quickly leave and not sign any of their forms. And all I wanted was to be somewhere safe and lay down. I felt like I might die. So once it became clear that nobody was going to help me there, I went with him, and he said, "Okay, let's take the bus, and you come with me home." He said that he felt like he was no longer angry with me. And why was he angry? I know this sounds, I don't feel comfortable talking about this. However, there was no other given reason other than him saying that women always want somebody who is bigger. And I never said that. I never said anything of the sorts. So it was pure projection. And this to him was reason to almost kill me because that's my fault in his mind. So that's his little secret that he doesn't want people to hear.
So Sverige nearly murdered his girlfriend by brutally beating her, and for no other reason than because he had this delusion that Luna thought he wasn't masculine enough. And he's the one claiming that he's the one who's being abused in the relationship. And by the way, Sverige later lied about this incident, claiming that Luna was attacked by some random mugger, and he was begging for money on his Patreon to pay for Luna's dental surgery and hospital bills. And again, where's the evidence that Luna was abusing Sverige? Sverige has no evidence of this. The only thing that we do know for sure is that Sverige tried to kill Luna multiple times. He tried to kill her with acid. He tried to kill her with a fire attack. Luna shared her story about how Sverige beat her. And again, we do actually have footage of Luna with her face pummeled in. So who are you going to believe? Who's the one who's the abuser? I think the evidence is quite clear.
And you got to understand that in her head, she now has control over him. He is her object. And the kidnapping happened on the same day or a day after I made a video. So I broke up with her. I left my son with her only because I was in the flight or fight mode, and we made a deal that she's going to breastfeed him. He was 1 year and pretty much 2 months old at the time. Yes, now looking back at it, if I wasn't in the adrenaline cortisol mode, maybe I would have thought twice about it. And you may believe that I'm totally naive and dumb, and I agree, maybe I am, for believing that she would never kidnap him. I never could have thought that she would do that.
So this is another lie. Sverige is claiming that Luna kidnapped his son. Luna has full custody. Sverige isn't technically the father legally, and Sverige is so stupid, he actually self-snitched and admitted he was lying here later in his own video.
I contacted over 10 lawyers, and all of them told me, because I'm not on the birth certificate, and the reason for that is that she tricked me back then because she was on welfare. She said that she wanted welfare if I'm on the birth certificate because she wanted to be a single mother on paper. So I said, okay, sure. Turns out that this was a lie. She could have gotten the money, actually. Found out later on. I am not on the birth certificate. I'm not officially his father on paper. Of course, biologically I am, but I'm not there also. So they said that it would take me over 5 years to ever even prove that I'm the father.
So Sverige deliberately left his name off of his child's birth certificate so that he is not legally the father. Luna has full legal custody over their son. So for him to say, oh, Luna kidnapped my son, it makes absolutely no sense. He has no custody. He has no right to see his child. He has no right to be in that kid's life. It is entirely up to Luna because she has full legal custody. So Sverige is so stupid and delusional, he doesn't even realize he's admitting his own lie.
Well, I don't know. The dude's obviously batshit crazy. He eats corpses, but also, I mean, when there's smoke, there's fire. I mean, I had a crazy ex, and she made me absolutely nuts. You know, I'd say both of them are somewhat to blame. Not that he's not a piece of shit. May very well even be the cause. I can't hear you, brother.
Sorry, didn't know it was muted. I
What'd
said,
you
"Oh
say,
yeah."
bro?
I said, "Oh yeah."
Well, generally, if you're in an unhealthy relationship, that unhealthiness wears off on the other person. Somebody might start innocent, but nobody ends innocent. But then again, the guy eats fucking dead corpses that are not cooked. He's obviously got worms. Worms will lead you to think unstably and in a weird way, you know?
Yeah.
Just my take on it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he tried to kill some kids he was in school with. That's pretty nuts.
Oh, I'm not saying he's not nuts. But do you
Yeah.
think sane people are going to date a fucking crazy piece of shit? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just saying there's got to be two sides to it. I don't ever want to just jump to conclusions. I'm willing to say that he's fucking batshit crazy just from what I've seen. I'm not willing to say she's not.
Yeah.
You know?
Definitely.
I don't know enough about that to speculate, you know? I just don't.
Have you seen
So
this
fact.
video, John?
I don't think so. Oh, wait. Is that video of that guy with Larken Rose? How that piece of shit went after dude's wife?
Yeah.
I knew it. I knew it. I recognized him. I'm not even good with faces, but I'll never forget that. What kind of piece of shit goes after somebody's wife? What a horrible person Larken is. Can't stand that piece of shit.
Yeah. What's going on here? Oh, okay. I get what's going on. Hold on one sec. I've been trying to figure out a little bit of a issue, an echo that was going on, but it's gone now. Which is this one? Holy crap. Like, what is going on?
What happened to Braxton?
He's here. Poof. Braxton is here.
There it is.
Okay, so
Back
we're
my
going.
What's up, brother?
How much are you doing?
I'm doing okay.
We got the Larken stuff we're getting into now.
Yeah, today we're gonna be spending a little bit more time on Mr. Rose. I first got into, well, I first came across Larken Rose while I was working for Adam versus the Man in like 2011, 2012, 2013, something like that. And he came on times, came on the podcast a few times, and I had to deal with getting him on and everything, and he was always very nice. And then over the years, I just kept seeing him have like really bad takes on things. And then I kept having, the only time I'd see this guy is when he's like exploding on my page on Facebook with another one of his bad takes. And so we would often go back and forth. And he would sick his minions on me and stuff like that. He just overall was a complete hothead. Not someone who seemed very confident in anything he was talking about. Ad hominem attacks, just getting red in the face, yelling, screaming, all kinds of crazy stuff. Which, is kind of, I don't know. It's just not a sign of someone who's worked on themselves or anything like that. So over the years, you see things that happen over the years in this scene and people forget about it. And everyone, the next week that goes by, no one remembers what, massive rights violations happened in the past. No one gives a shit anymore about Jeff Berwick stealing tons of money from all kinds of people or stuff like that. It just goes by. So yeah, then like bigger things started popping up that just kind of, none of them being super concrete. Like this video, I'm the first person to tell you all is fair in love and war. But the detail that this guy goes in explaining what happened and the behavior and of the people involved was just kind of shocking, and it's just something you should know. People should know when following people or donating money to people, stuff like that. So yeah, this one came up. This was always a classic. Larken, where'd it go? There we go. I guess we can just start this one up.
First of all, I'd like to start by saying I love you, Amanda, and I really do want absolutely the best for you. And in no way is anything I'm about to say intended to
You guys hear this shit?
bring you any hurt. I love you. I confess that my intent is to bring to light the character of Larken Rose, because I consider him at this point to actually be a person of dangerous character, and certainly he has been.
It is a quiet video.
In my life, and it's been pretty devastating, to be honest. Pretty devastating. I'm sure I look haggard and tired because I am. For a month now, I sleep in 3-hour blocks, maybe a little more. Most nights, I think it's been at least a month since I've actually slept even 7 hours in a night, or 6, or I try and catch naps when I can. It's not working so well. On October 6th, I discovered my wife. How do I say it? Shit. I found her phone. It was charging. It was flashing, and I was up at 1:30 in the morning. Woke a little bit. The flashing kind of kept me awake, and so I wanted to just reach for her phone, turn it over. She had it plugged in. It was fully charged, and I guess it was at the green light, flashes when it's done. And her phone wasn't locked. And I grabbed her phone, and this little screen thing went up, and I was looking at a picture of somebody's dick. I was like, what the hell is that? So I was shocked. Of course, I took the phone out of the bedroom. I closed the door of the bedroom, and I began to walk around the house, pacing, looking at the phone. And what I saw was a sex conversation that she and Larken had been having, and it was pretty graphic. I won't go into the details. I thought maybe later I could talk to Tessa Rose, and I discovered that she didn't know anything about this, and I proved to her. Turns out, oh yeah, she's known for most of the time, and she's okay with it. So I woke her up, and I said, "What's going on? We need to talk. We need to talk." And in short order, she confessed that she says she's been in love with Larken Rose for 2 years, and they've been having a secret affair for that long. And of course, I was shocked and horrified. She proceeded to tell me her story. I've heard the story enough, and Larken verified it too in an email he sent me. And it goes like this. Larken Rose was just super, super duper depressed. In fact, he told my wife, who I believe he identified pretty quickly as a rescuer type, he told her he wanted to kill himself. And she in her, I believe, sincere desire to want to help this man that she came to respect. You know, you might almost think of like a college professor. She looked up to him, you know, and she respected him and his writings, you know, and you know how often it's a stereotype, right? The, you know, female students falling for their older, distinguished professor guy. So, but here's how the story starts. He felt depressed, he told her, and he wanted to kill himself. He was just going to find some way to off himself in the most devastating manner to the state, but he was definitely going to do it. And so she said she tried to counsel him out of it. She said I had counseled other friends of mine to encourage them, to get them to feel better and be happy. She's basically a positive, upbeat person. And I believe she was sincere in wanting to help Larken. I also believe that, you know, my personal belief is that Larken knew what he was doing, but he would deny that, I'm sure. And so they had counseling sessions, so-called, you know, for days and days, hours and hours. And she would go on these long, very long walks with her phone, and she was having conversations with him. So of course, I fault her right there for being a married woman who decided, pardon me, my phone, who decided that it was somehow okay to have these long, intimate conversations with a man who's not her husband. I mean, where else is anything like that going to lead? But she did. And along the way, she says, her story now, is that at some point, I think it was Larken suggested, but I'm not clear on that detail, that they did sort of a role-playing counseling session where the little girl in her was going to talk directly to the little boy in him, to little Larken, because little Larken was suffering under this dark spirit that was making him depressed and wanted to not live anymore. So little Amanda reached out somehow in this imaginary counseling session role play they were doing, and wrestled this dark spirit off of little Larken and delivered him from it, and in quotes, saved him. And that's what he said. And I don't recall this detail exactly, I'll admit, but I think he was the first one to say, "Oh my goodness, I'm free and I love you." Well, in either case, whether it was him or not, at that point, this is true. She repeated so often that she said she got struck like by the universe, like overwhelming bam, just absolutely hit her, irresistible, or I'm sorry, her exact words were, and in that moment, I was brought to my knees under the sudden realization that I was irrevocably in love with Larken. So she says at that moment, she'd fallen irrevocably in love with a man she had never met. Only heard of been on the phone. And she went on to say that she had an experience, and I'm not sure of her timeline. Sometimes it seemed to waver, but I think she's saying this happened before she was counseling Larken. Her experience was that she went to heaven. And she knows it was heaven. She fell asleep one night and she had a dream that was more vivid than any dream she ever had. In fact, so vivid she knew it wasn't a dream. She was in heaven. In heaven, she was this dragon, the dragon anarchist. That's where that all came from. And as this dragon, she was just floating, soaring over the landscape, and she was huge and she was powerful. And she came to just live an entire life there. She says, I lived an entire life in this dragon body, and that's who I am. That's who I was, and I knew it. And when she woke up, she said she had this literally physically painful experience of trying to fit herself, her new soul, her dragon soul, her expanded soul, down into her body. It actually physically hurt her. She said to squeeze down that tiny and take on again all the cares and woes of the world now that she was back in her human body. So she then told me that she grew like another heart, like a second one inside of her. First, she described it, actually about 3 or 4 times, she described this being like this innocent little 12-year-old girl. Sounds like the one maybe came up in the counseling session. In any case, and that innocent little 12-year-old girl wanted to frolic and play and have fun with little Larken. But she grew that as this extra piece that belonged to him. But she still had 100% of heart, the original Amanda heart, for me. You see, she never changed how she felt about me at all. She absolutely loves me. She absolutely adores me. She never imagined living any place other than with me as my wife for the rest of her life in this dream home that we got just a year and a half ago. That's what she said. And that evening, when I caught her and I confronted her and she confessed this tale, I just scooped her up in my arms and I said, "Sweetheart, I love you. I love you. I just want this. I want this connection we've always had, heart to heart, you and me. I want that." And we went in the bedroom. We had mad, passionate, connecting lovemaking. And I was horrified, but at the same time, in that moment, I also knew what I really wanted. My goal wasn't to make her feel bad. My goal was to restore whatever got broken, that this could have happened. What I was surprised to discover was that Amanda wasn't done. Amanda said, I said the next day, "Okay, we can move forward, but you just can't have any more contact with him." She said, "But I can't do that. I'll die." I said, "I don't understand. You said you still love me. You want to be my wife. It can't be with him also." And she said, "Tom, that's a man I've spoken to every single day for 2 years. I can't stop. I have to. Tom, I have to." I said, "How do you imagine our lives going forward?" She said, "Well, I'll just still continue to get on a plane 4 or 5 times a year to just fly out there and live with him and Tessa for a week, and then I'll come back. So you'll have me, like 95% of the time. I'm still here." I said, "You've been neglecting and stealing from us for 2 years, stealing from us and giving tremendous attention to everything other than your son and me. This boy, 7 years old, who I've been his father for 7 years, the entire time we've been together. Practically, I've been helping you raise him. And you've been ignoring us and neglecting us so that you can continue to build this dragon anarchist persona. And I now understand why that was so important to you, what was driving it so much. It wasn't just you. It's been this love affair you've been having with him." And she said, "Well, I'm not giving it up." And I thought that's not possible. How are we going to do this? So I lived with her for the next 3 or 4 days, and she still admitted to me every day, "Yeah, I contacted him today. I talked to him." And it was just like a dagger to my heart every time. Every time I wanted to cry. I couldn't believe this was happening. I couldn't believe it was real. And she literally looked terrified of the idea that she might not be able to call him on the phone. And I was being devastated and killed daily with this knowledge. And she said to me on about the third day after she was caught that she now has this sensation inside. Again, she initially said, like a 12-year-old girl. She's changed. She modified that later. She said, well, stop saying a 12-year-old girl. I said, well, you did. You said it over and over. Well, it's not exactly like that. In any case, it's like a little girl part of her that is now made uncomfortable by having sex, just doesn't want penetrative sex. And I told this to Larken already like days ago. And so I'm telling you that I think that, I want to be your wife and I want to be here with you. And I want to, we can still like snuggle and hug and kiss. But that's it. Cause I'm pretty sure, I'm sure that I don't want to have sex ever again. And I'm thinking, now what am I dealing with? Is this somebody who's like a victim of sexual trauma or something? What's going on? Nothing's making any sense, but that's what she said. And I couldn't believe that's what she said because she's always been very sexual. I caught her having a very, 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 very sexual internet chat with him. And now she's telling me, yeah, she's pretty sure she just doesn't want to have sex anymore with anybody ever. She's done. And she wanted to live that way as my wife. And we just won't be intimate. And then about every 2.5 to 3 months, she'll just fly to Pennsylvania for a week. At this point, I really started wondering, where's my wife? Like, I don't know who this is. But she would say things like, I just have a new heart. I'm expanded now. I'm different. I got a download from the universe that has fundamentally altered how I view marriage. I don't think basically she just doesn't think there should be even anything like marriage promises, like even commitments to one another. It could, people just, I don't know, as they get struck by the universe, they'll know, okay, there's another one we can include. I don't know. But then she said, oh, by the way, I'm not polyamorous. I thought that was the definition of polyamory. She said, no, I can't. It's disgusting to me. It's disgusting to me. I hate that idea that, of like being passed back and forth between people. No, I don't want to be polyamorous. I never did. And now I just want to have these intimate romantic relationships with you and Larken with no sex involved. I just don't want anything like that. So as you might imagine, this was impossible. Just impossible for me. I can't. The whole idea just doesn't make any sense. It seems so crazy to me. It's not a marriage. And I finally had to say to her, I think you need to leave. Well, before that happened, her family confronted her about this, actually her ex-husband's family, saying, you need to give up your son right now. He's moping around, he's crying, he's upset because he's been around while you two are crying and yelling at each other, which we certainly had done for the first 3 days a lot. And because I just kept getting hit with wave after wave of grief. It was so awful. And they demanded that they give Amanda up to her biological father at this point. Just let him stay with him, give him up, Amanda, because you need to get yourself sorted out right now. You're not being a good mom, and it's definitely not being a good environment right now. And you got to give him up, give him more. And so she did. And that was maybe about day 3, about day 5, 5th or 6th day after I caught her. I said, you have to leave, you have to go. And she didn't want to. And she told me, you're gonna have to physically remove me. And so I called her father, said, would you come help me get her coax her out of the house? And he said to me, right in front of her, she could hear this conversation. He said, just call the police, Tom. I don't want to get involved. And with that, she said, okay, fine, I'll go. And she got some friends of ours to go live with on about that 6th day. And she left with some of her personal things. And while she was there, we still would see each other like almost every other day. And there was always hugs and kisses, and she loves me. And I wanted that connection. I was craving it. And at the same time, she's still like, well, I'm still contacting Larken. Well, I'm sorry, I'm never going to stop. And I guess after about a week of that, maybe less, I asked father to come over to that friend's house with me to support me, because I was about to tell his daughter, I can never contact you again. If this is what you're doing, it's killing me every time I learn of it. Every day that I learn of it, it's just killing me. And I can't do this anymore. I don't think I can even speak to you or hear from you or know about you anymore. I can't do it. Well, with that, defeated her parents and our friends and me, kind of trying to do almost like sort of an intervention. Like, what are you doing? Your son is gone now. Your husband's gone. You're not living in your dream home you bought a year and a half ago. What future do you imagine you're going to have without Tom? Why would you be doing this to Tom? What's going on? Where's my daughter? And she defended herself absolutely vociferously, loudly, right back at them with kind of all the things I've already told you about the story and how she knows it is good. And God essentially, brought another man in, and Tom just needs to understand God did this. So, if Tom would just understand, none of this would be happening. So it went pretty badly for about 2.5 hours. I left after 90 minutes. I was exhausted. I just cried and left. Her parents stayed about another hour past me, then they went. And by the time I got home, I got a phone call from those friends she was staying with, and they said, Tom, Amanda still wants to work this out. I said, how is that supposed to happen? She has agreed that she will not contact Larken at all, no communication whatsoever for 30 days while you two continue marriage counseling. And I listened to him, and then I listened to her, and I came to a point of believing her that she meant this commitment. She wanted to do everything she could to save our marriage. And so I wanted that, and I thought maybe as we go through counseling, something will change. Maybe there'll be some shift. Maybe something will come to light, be revealed. Something. And for her part, she made it very obvious for the next 3 weeks that we were dating, and spending every other day with each other, dinners, and walks and talks, and lots of intimacy, lots of just enjoyment.
Yeah. What do you think about that comment, Braxton?
That's really stupid. That's really stupid. It doesn't apply to animals. Like I said, they're victims in like the current system. They don't really have any. They don't necessarily have free will because they're being enslaved. Sorry, my connection's really bad right now.
We can hear you fine.
Okay, it's acting up on my end, but trying to see the damn comments right now.
That's the whole point. It doesn't pertain to animals, it pertains to humans. We're held to a higher standard when it comes to our dealings with animals. That comment makes no sense.
Where's your voice?
What?
I barely hear you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I can kind of hear you guys.
What Ali said is natural law pertains to humans and their dealings with animals. So Rapaccio would never approve of. What do you mean? Talks about it every day.
Passio specifically says that natural law doesn't apply to animals and it applies to humans and our dealings with animals.
So what do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, it does not make sense.
Animals are not property owners. They have no How is that relevant to natural law?
It sounds like we're kind of on the same page, but there's something not clicking.
Yeah, I feel like he's like, we don't disagree.
Well, he's a Carnist, I assume, and he's got to argue his position. His obvious position that isn't, like, it's like, come on, guys, like, this is the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing. We can't expect them to. We can't hold them to the same standards because they don't have moral agency because they're on a lower they're on a lower state of consciousness where they're not able to think and conceptualize the same way that we are. They're essentially like toddlers, and we're enslaving and killing them en masse. So it's kind of a natural law violation.
Jeff obviously needs to rewatch the lecture.
Can I say something?
Passio never stated that killing animals is wrong, so you obviously haven't really watched through his entire lecture.
If
so
you think that, because even back in the day, he was vegetarian and still had the same rhetoric he has to this day as a vegan. So you're obviously trolling.
I think it might be a troll.
Yeah,
that's a
you can't be that dumb.
That's objectively wrong. So
do we have a trash ape here? Do we have a trash monkey who's trying to say that they have some sort of right over a sentient being's body? He's never stated killing animals is wrong. He absolutely has, hundreds of times. Like,
maybe
you're
we
joking,
should watch
right?
the clip about carnism.
So wait a minute.
About it. I mean, it's you're just not looking up the information, so I assume he's trolling it.
Jeff Holman, go to YouTube right now and type in
Mark Passio
carnism. There's plenty of stuff. So we won't be wasting any more time with your dumb comments. Yes, Justin, you're trash. You're a King Kong trash monkey. Trash ape. But yeah, so this guy's Larken obviously doesn't care about his buddies. But like I said, all's fair in love and war. This was a funny thing. This popped up in my YouTube or my Facebook memories from last year. And this is just one example of the many examples of him basically like pimping out his girlfriend for money. Really weird, low vibration behavior. Send us money because my girlfriend's a hottie. Like, come on, man. And, you know, every time I post this, it gets like tons and tons of comments because it's just like, people are like, is this even real? Like, is this real? And it is real. It is real.
Are you sharing the screen right now?
I think so. Oh, whoops.
Nope.
I guess I wasn't. Let me share it. Where'd it go?
The post that you were talking about.
Where is it? I guess. Is it the Metards one? The Trash Ape? Justin Padini's Trash Ape video that you should all watch. Find it here on my YouTube. Who was here? Why'd everyone leave? Oh, it's that one.
We had John Bob earlier. And DM, I think.
Yeah, DM's thing isn't working very well. I think we're going to watch this, though. This is a pretty good take.
Boom shakalaka, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters around the world. It is your chocolate Nubian soul brother, the esoteric noetic. Buckle up, bitches, because this one is about to get heavy. We are about to have a look at some comments that were recently made by none other than Larken Rose, one of the most prolific figures in the freedom movement. Larken Rose is an anarchist, someone that believes in no rulers, has devoted much of his life towards abolishing this idea of government that is based off of violence, coercive violence, that is based off of essentially forcibly taxing people at the threat of a gun, at the threat of imprisonment. And for someone that is an anarchist, someone that believes in no rules, someone that believes in the non-aggression principle, it is inherently wrong to have people violate you. And this is the fundamental basis for anarchism, which Larken Rose is a proponent of. So, as you would imagine, it was with much discontent that I came across this post by Larken Rose advocating that it is essentially justified for us to have rulership, to have dominion over non-human animals. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a look at some of the comments that were made here. This entire blog that was made by Larken Rose here. So, look, Larken starts off by saying, okay, I'm going to post this despite the fact that, one, the topic is irrelevant to what I do these days. Sounds very political. This has nothing to do with what I do these days. Larken, the truth is this has everything to do with what you put out. You are essentially someone that believes in freedom. You are an anarchist. The idea of not being in line with freedom for animals is contrary to the whole idea of anarchism if you are being perfectly logically consistent. The problem with many anarchists, plenty of libertarians out there, is that they are libertarian-ish or they're narco-capital-ish. They apply these attitudes, the non-aggression principle, when it suits them. But then they find an issue that they don't like, they don't want to take all the way, and they say, oh, I don't like this. It's too hard for me to apply this policy. It seems crazy, so I'm not going to apply it. And this is what happens with many other areas of libertarianism, whether it's open borders, whether it is tax, just a little bit of tax, just a little bit of minarchism, or whether or not it is animal rights. Animal rights are the logical extension of human rights. You cannot advocate for freedom for your own people, but not advocate for freedom for people that are simply different to you, genetically speaking, but still experience the same pain. Human beings are animals. They are a type of animal. The idea of advocating for freedom, but not freedom for all of these animals, is hypocritical. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into this. Now, second point he makes is, it will cause some people to flip out and get mad at me. No doubt, that's how people tend to respond when you say something that is hypocritical, not true. I have a question for vegans and vegetarians. Here we go. What is your ultimate goal? Now, of course, I cannot speak for all vegans and vegetarians out there. Ultimately, there are people that advocate for veganism on health reasons, on environmental reasons. They advocate, obviously, for veganism because they don't want to see animals suffer. But ultimately, the root of veganism stretches back to the age-old giant tradition of ahimsa. This is how veganism came about through the UK Vegetarian Society before it was codified within the Vegan Society. The ultimate meaning of veganism is derived from ahimsa, non-violence. It's essentially the same idea of anarchism, which is based off the non-aggression principle, non-violence. Ultimately, what you were advocating for
with veganism is that it is inherently wrong to harm these sentient beings. This is an idea that came about from the Tutankhamun priests of the giants over 9,000 years ago. They simply, as they became more meditative, realized that it was wrong to harm these creatures, that they had no right to do that. Veganism is not predicated on the idea that you are necessarily going to bring about this utopian society, even though many of us believe that it will bring this about. It is predicated on the idea, the principal nature of human rights, the idea that it is wrong to do certain things, period. It's really interesting because one of my favorite quotes from Larken Rose deals with the principal nature of anarchy and goes into the explanation about how anarchy is based off the philosophical basis that each man has a right to do what he wants without being harmed in the process. In fact, if I read the quote to you and make some slight adjustments, you'll see the pure and utter hypocrisy of this. Because you see that when you apply veganism to this, you realize that ultimately, Larken, you're being unbelievably hypocritical. And look, the quote that I came across of yours a while back, let me see if I can bring this one up right now. Bam, 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 bam. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you can see this over here. Essentially, what Larken is advocating for here, let's see if I can get a hold on this. What status of all types fail to understand is that anarchists don't believe what they do from a utilitarian perspective. All right. Now, if you read this and you substitute this for the whole concept of veganism, what essentially this will say is what carnists of all types fail to understand is that vegans don't believe what they do from a utilitarian perspective. Although they realize a non-carnist world will do better than a carnist one, veganism is not adopted for a better society or any other such collectivist notion. The belief in freedom, or ahimsa, as I would call it, is philosophical. It is held by all men with a certain knowledge that they have a right to live their own lives, to pursue their own happiness, and no other man or groups of men has any moral right to rule them or impede their individual liberty. So when you say it won't work, it's entirely irrelevant. There are answers to all your rational fears about overpopulation, bacon though, lions though, but they are entirely besides the point. While vegans and vegetarians understand that the vegan world will always outperform one where we slaughter animals we claim to love to appease our base desires, that is not why we believe. That is not why they believe what they do. Vegans and vegetarians believe what they believe because it is the only fully moral and non-contradictory position anyone can hold about himself and other humans and non-human animals. So it's funny because if you essentially replace the concepts of statism with the concept of veganism, you realize just the complete and utter insanity of what Larken is making, or the arguments Larken is making, rather, with the comments that he makes here. So look, that the ultimate goal of veganism is fundamentally principle-based. Now, granted, everyone has their own goals. Ultimately, it's to stop harming these animals because you don't own them, because essentially we believe in freedom for all, not just freedom for your friends or family, but freedom for all mankind. We don't truly have a freedom movement here with anarchy. If all of the anarcho-capitalists are talking about freedom, but only for people that they consider worthy of freedom, that's not a freedom movement. We're talking about freedom for all sentient beings here. Now, the reason I ask is this. This is Larken continuing the post here. I don't like it when animals suffer. Whoopee, neither do I, Larken. Most of us don't. However, Mother Nature doesn't give a shit about animal suffering. Oh my God, he's making the appeal to nature fallacy over here. Now, here's the thing. Now, granted, we may see all of this injustice taking place in our environment, what we call nature. Now, that's not an argument. I mean, nature is essentially what we're seeing around us, if you define it like that. If we lived in a society where we are doing horrible things, that is nature in of itself. We are all a product of nature. Therefore, if we take it upon ourselves to behave like douchebags and continue raping each other, raping our friends and family because we can do it, that is also nature. Human beings want to see themselves as being distinct from nature, at least within this perspective, that essentially you see something around you, so it must be nature. That's not nature. That's just what we see around us. Nature, in the truest sense of the word, is in reference to the Egyptian word nater. It's the idea of the principle of things, or God. the idea that there is a certain order to things. And ultimately, from a philosophical basis, we should constantly be allowing our behavior to represent what is manifest within the principle of God, or the principle of things. So good conduct, the idea of morality, the idea of human rights, the idea that there are certain things that we have a right to do and certain things that we don't. This is the whole concept of self-ownership, of libertarian ethics, the idea that fundamentally we do not have a right to do certain things. And I am sure Larken Rose is aware of this. Nature is heartless as hell. Human beings are the only predator that ever tries to be nice to other animals they eat. That's just simply not true. There are plenty of animals that show remorse when they kill another animal. There are animals that choose not to kill animals because they feel bad about it. There's a classic example of a cheater. I watched a video just a while back after killing a monkey and noticing the monkey's infant, took pity on that infant, decided to nurse that infant, went against its basic need to want to kill that animal and eat it because it felt guilt. A lot of people are in the mindset that animals have no moral agency. No, animals have moral agency. They just don't have the same level of moral agency. It's just not as developed. But this idea that animals don't show compassion and they don't give a shit is just not the case. And of course, with us, obviously with greater understanding, greater awareness, it is more incumbent upon us to show more understanding, to not apply the same standards that we have for animals to ourselves. So this idea that, wait a sec, these animals don't give a shit, look at what we do, is a fallacious argument. I don't see you sniffing the asses of other human beings when they pass. I don't see you partaking in infanticide like these lions do. Why would you select certain characteristics that these other animals do that are obviously not as aware of you and choose to make arguments against veganism because these other animals do that? Sounds very cherry picking to me. So to go on, if all human beings stop eating meat, that would not make animals have comfortable lives. That would not make animals have comfortable lives and pleasant, painless deaths. Well, no shit. That's besides the point. The whole goal, as you may fail to understand, like with anarchy, similarly, like the whole idea of eradicating the state, is not necessarily because it's going to make the world a better place. It may be very difficult to begin with. Now, granted, a lot of statists believe that it will lead to a flourishing society. There'll be an efflorescence in all these different aspects of civilization, from science, art. People will be financially better off. That's neither here or there. The state should not exist because it is based off of violation. It's based off of coercion. It's based off of violation of the non-aggression principle. It's based off of doing something that no one should have the right to do. And similarly, the whole idea of eradicating our treatment of animals, carnism, is because it is fundamentally flawed. It is wrong to do these things, not because it's going to lead to some amount of good or it's going to stop pain and suffering from taking place, even though, of course, it will. Of course, these animals are not being lined in these slaughterhouses and having to be tortured to death. That's obviously going to relinquish the pain and suffering. But even if you put that aside, it's not the reason that you should not do that. You should not do it because it is inherently wrong. It's so weird to see someone make these kind of arguments that has been making exact contradictory arguments to this in other videos, that completely understands the concept of freedom and completely understands the concept of utilitarian justice, the idea that it's never justified to do something that is wrong, but is somehow making all of these utilitarian consequentialist arguments. Okay, moving on. In the wild, animals rarely die as quickly or as painlessly as they do when they get hunted by humans. So what? It's irrelevant. You're saying that ultimately, because we are killing them in a more humane way, it's justified. Larken, if I decided to go and sniper you, because likely you're going to die of cancer, likely you're going to die of heart disease, and I don't want you to go through that agonizing pain of cancer, it doesn't make it more justified. That's a ridiculous argument. It is simply wrong for me to take your life because of the secondhand harm that I'm creating. But just all your friends and family obviously are going to mourn for your death. And similarly, when you kill these animals, when you sniper them, when you hunt them, when you take them out of their complex networks of society, You're creating a lot of pain in the lives of their friends and family. You should see the rituals that elephants partake in when they lose a loved one. It's painful watching them go through this thing. The idea that they do not feel the same kind of pain as you do emotionally is not only unwise, but stupid. So he goes on further to write, freezing to death, starving to death, dying of disease, all of these horrible ways in which animals can be killed by predators are not pleasant ways to die. So what? It doesn't mean that it's okay for me to kill you because it's likely that this is going to happen to you. These are all utilitarian arguments. These are all, well, because this is likely going to happen to you, it's all right for me to do this kind of shit, which is exactly the stuff that I would imagine Larken is very much against. Clearly evident in the quote that I read. Again, I don't like animal suffering when I can afford to choose, mostly when I haven't been rubbed into poverty by the state. I love this. Playing the victim card. Hey, look at my poor circumstances. I don't have enough money to choose what I can eat. Poor me. This is an argument that a lot of social justice warriors make. A lot of people that make this argument that look at all the shit that my ancestors had to go through. Look at the circumstances that I've been brought up in. You need to show pity on me. I want my reparations. This is all victim mentality. If anything, you should be more aware of the injustice that has been performed upon you. Therefore, it's incumbent upon you not to perform that injustice upon other people. This idea that, look, hey, wait a sec. Hey, I'm finding it hard enough, which is what I think he's alluding to with this comment over here. And look, I don't want to read too much into that. Maybe he's just stating that as a point. But at the end of the day,
how big is this yuppie part of town?
Boom, shakalaka, ladies. Replace the concepts of statism with the concept of financially better off. That's neither here or there. The state should not exist because it is based off of violation. Form that injustice upon other people. This idea that, look, hey, wait a sec. Hey, I'm finding it hard enough, which is what I think he's alluding to with this comment over here. And look, I don't want to read too much into that. Maybe he's just stating that as a point. But at the end of the day, it doesn't make it right for you to kill these animals.
Yeah.
Just because you don't like animal suffering and you advocate for humane slaughter, somehow reducing the harm that you're causing. Humane slaughter, as we are aware of, is an oxymoron. The idea of me treating you very nicely as my lover and somehow humanely smothering you to death does not make it right. It's still immoral as fuck. Okay, Larken goes on further to say, I prefer buying meat from places I can visit and see how the animals are treated, where they aren't raised in little boxes or otherwise given totally miserable existences. Once again, trying to advocate for the whole humane slaughter thing. I want to make sure that my animals are treated well and killed well. Fundamentally, Larken, what you're failing to understand is that if it is fundamentally wrong to kill these animals, the idea that you're somehow gently killing them does not make it justified. These are all the arguments I would expect from consequentialists, people that think along those lines. But to see someone that is such a proponent of principle-based thinking, of morality, not this Marxist ideology. Marxists, for the most part, Marxism is not predicated on morality. It's based on, Marx did not believe in the concept of morality. He believed in strategizing as to how he could create the best system. So it's a clear fact. Now, the idea of principle-based thinking, individual philosophies, is that there are certain things that are inherently wrong. If you're already making arguments like, well, maybe I can just make sure these things are fed well and it's okay, I would imagine that means that you already acknowledge the idea that it's wrong to do these things. Therefore, you doing these things anyway does not make it more justified. You treating an animal well doesn't make it more justified. If it's simply wrong to do these things, it is wrong to kill these animals. Period. Okay. Now, finally, I can tell you nature is not nice to animals. Oh, wait, I missed a bit. But if vegans and vegetarians are imagining that animals would be all pleasant, happy, we'd be all living pleasant and happy lives, if not for people eating them, they are sorely mistaken. That's besides the point. No, I'm sure a lot of vegans realize that regardless of whether or not they eat these animals, there are going to be a lot of people that are willing to even eat more animals. If you're familiar with the phrase, for every piece of meat that you don't eat, I'm going to have 2 pieces of meat. There are a lot of Carnists that advocate for that, but it's based off of the principal idea that it is wrong to do these things. This is unbelievable. This is someone that is making all of the arguments that he's known classically not to make. It's so fascinating when you see someone make these unbelievably sophisticated arguments, like solve complex algebraic equations, and then on the other hand, like they don't have the ability to do basic addition and subtraction. And similarly, in this situation, this is such a very clearly bad argument. All the arguments that he's making here are stupid. Unfortunately, I have to say this, and this issue is so much more simpler than many of the other issues that I've seen brilliantly address in regards to the state. But for some reason, I think because of intellectual bias, he doesn't seem to get the picture. Okay, now I love nature and have lived in it for much of my life. And I can tell you, nature is not nice to animals. It has no freaking compassion. Yes, I love animals and wish people would be nicer to them, but what is the actual goal of vegans and vegetarians? As I've said before, regardless of whether or not they're doing it for health reasons, for environmental reasons, because they believe it's going to reduce animal suffering, ultimately, the whole idea of this at its origin is based off of the idea that it's simply wrong to harm these things. Similarly to anarchism, it's based off of the principled nature of things, that you do not have a right to violate the life of these animals simply because you're trying to do it when you don't need to do it is completely ridiculous. Now, it goes on to say, if the goal is don't eat them and then they will all be happy and comfortable, that is a very misguided goal. Well, that's irrelevant once again. Now, having said that, by not eating them, by not purchasing animal foods, obviously you're reducing demand. It's a basic mathematical equation, demand and supply. Obviously, these organizations get the picture that it's not a good idea to be killing these animals, to be raping them, to be doing what we do if there is no demand for them. As you understand, I'm sure, with market forces, ultimately it comes down to demand and supply. Not only are you making utilitarian arguments, you're behaving like you don't understand the market here, which is not something that is characteristic of an anarcho-capitalist. If the goal is don't cause animals unnecessary suffering, which is the utilitarian argument, ultimately you're trying to, it's not necessarily the principled argument. It's that, well, I'm trying to reduce trying to create a world with the least amount of pain. And look, ultimately, yes, you should be striving to do that. But ultimately, this is all about principles. It's all about the idea that it's wrong to do something. Now, ultimately, regardless of what you do, of course, I know people are going to make the absolutist argument that you're always going to be doing some kind of harm. There are forms of harm, though, that are indirect. Making a conscious effort not to partake in things that you would not want done to yourself, from a principled approach, not to harm things, unless, of course, it's in self-defense, is the same basis for which we use in anarchism. Like this idea that, well, regardless of what I do, I'm still going to be doing harm, is not really an argument. At the end of the day, as long as you take it upon yourself to make a conscious effort not to actively harm sentient beings, then of course you're doing the right thing. And this is all veganism is advocating for. Now, granted, there are always going to be different levels that you can take things, but ultimately it is incumbent upon us to at least realize that this is wrong, to make an effort to avoid doing it. And making arguments like humane meat, I just want to reduce unnecessary suffering, is not a valid argument. In fact, that's something that people do just to appease their own guilt. It would be similar to what Goebbels, the minister of propaganda, did. Goebbels, the minister of propaganda for Hitler, did by telling the Nazis to walk these Jews into the gas chambers without pulling their hair before they were executed, because he wanted to kill them more humanely. It is an oxymoronic argument. Now, furthermore, the people who don't mind or who enjoy causing animals pain aren't high on my list of people I want to trust to be nice to other humans. Understandably, neither of us appreciate animal suffering, but there are those that somehow feel as if it's justified to reduce the suffering, to appease their own guilt, as opposed to those that are striving to abolish this thing. Now, similarly, someone like yourself that is obviously not a proponent of minarchism, which is the whole idea of just having a little bit of state, you would understand the whole concept of veganism. It's not necessarily about reducing how these animals are slaughtered. It's about eradicating the idea of us eating them, of us having dominion over them. So look, ladies and gentlemen, freaks and geeks, it's rather disconcerting when you see someone turn all of his principles upside down when it comes to animal rights. And this is something I've noticed a lot of anarcho-capitalists do. They make arguments that, animals can't reciprocate rights, so it's all right to do what we do to them, which is a completely retarded argument. Unequivocally, that is a stupid argument, because if you were to apply that to human animals, we realize that there are children that obviously cannot reciprocate rights, that do not have the understanding. The idea of saying that mothers now have a right to kill them purely because they don't have an understanding of moral principles is pure and utter insanity. there is no logical, consistent argument that you can make as to why it's okay for us to kill human beings. Therefore, why should there be any logical, consistent argument for you to make as to why it's okay to kill non-human animals? So, ladies and gentlemen, freaks and geeks, let us know what you think. Larken Rose, I still have respect for you, brother. I think deep down, I think you really do get this. I think there's just a little bit of intellectual fuckery upon your part. And I would sincerely invite you to, well, respond in your Steam post and try to at least...
I doubt it's even intellectual fuckery. I think he knows. He just is lazy. He doesn't want to change in the least bit. And he rather stay a part of the Carnist cult and eat his meat and do his steroids and be a big man. What do you think, John Bob?
Sorry, I was muted. I think it's popularity. I think he's a beta male that just wants to be cool, you know? He makes his videos and fits in. He doesn't want to lose some of his audience. It's about popularity. It's about money. He doesn't really believe in freedom or the movement at all. He's fake. The figurehead.
Yeah, no, he's often said that, you know, he won't touch certain subjects because the masses wouldn't like him touching those subjects. He appeals to the crowd often. He appeals to authority often, shockingly enough. But yeah, so, you know, I hadn't seen this video. I just watched the first couple minutes of it. Just wanted to watch it. But yeah, I mean, you know, and Larken and Justin Pedini like doing the whole plant sentience argument, massive all the time. And then Justin the other day, oh, let me show you this. So Justin yesterday challenged me to a debate with him and Larken Rose.
He always challenges people to debates.
No, he always challenges people to debates, but this one was, I challenge you, me and Larken Rose against you and whoever you want for money. That's a legitimate debate challenge. And
can I have it on it?
Can I bet no. Absolutely
I want
not.
to call him a beta male.
Yeah, that's not a debate, bro. That's exactly why you wouldn't be in it. Because you, like Justin, don't know how to debate, really. You know how to yell a bunch of stuff, but there's actual rules to debate. And, you know, Justin's been told about these rules for the better part of a decade, but he doesn't want to learn any of them. He just thinks debating is yelling at people. So, yes. So I wonder if Larken Rose knew about this. They've talked about it before, or if Justin's just inviting him along for his debate. I keep asking Justin, when are we doing it? And he keeps deflecting and talking about like getting someone else to debate someone else. Like, I don't know, like he keeps talking about this lady. I don't know. He, you know, so, you know, we'll see what comes of this. Any day of the week. I don't even need someone else, but might be easier. Huh?
It won't happen. From the sounds of it, he's deflecting for a reason. Larken won't touch that content. Fucking, he's a beta. He doesn't want to get, you know, he's either going to look stupid or alienate his people. Whatever. One or the other.
I don't know. He goes back and forth in the comments with everyone and uses, you know, all the old 90s era, you know, anti-vegan arguments that have been debunked a trillion times. You know, but you know, if Justin and Larken want to debate a vegan against plant sentience, veganism and plant sentience, I would do that any day of the week.
Look at the guy.
I would put up Allie against the dragon anarchist any day of the week to a debate to the death on veganism and the morality of veganism.
Who's the
Day of
dragon
week.
anarchist?
That's Larken's wife.
Oh,
Who wrote this piece of work right here that we're going to read right now. Hold on a sec. Let me pull it up. Devin sent me this months and months and months ago, and he was like, "Holy crap, dude! Look at this crap." And I was like, "Oh man, we got to go over this on the show at some point because this is some funny stuff." And this is. I'm not surprised that this take is coming from the Larken Rose camp. So I'm gonna read this. It's very small because Devin screenshotted it and it's been minimized. So, this is a funny one. So this is from Amanda Rashwitz. You can argue for carnivore. You can argue for veganism, or ... She's writing like, I don't know, like a 2-year-old. You could ... if you wanna ... just go take a good hard look at the 10 years worth of solid data that does not lie ... in the form of self-documented by the contestants survival series called Alone. So it's on the historychannel.com for free if you sit through the commercial. So she linked in History Channel. So paragraph number 1. So instead of looking at 200 years of meta science, we should look at a TV show called Alone, given to you by the historychannel.com. And we all know the historychannel.com is a very reliable source for history and information. Holy crap. So let's ignore 200 years of meta science and let's focus on a reality TV show that's on a network that's obviously run by the powers that be, that own all the meat and dairy industry. They obviously want people eating more meat and dairy, so they're going to obviously inject stuff like this, into their shows, Carnist ideas and stuff. So right off the bat, and I'm so not surprised that this is coming out of Larken Rose's team. This is absolutely hilarious. So I'll continue. History Channel. 10 years straight of series where ... individuals are being put into wilderness alone, left to survive with the mere basics and live as long as they... I can't. The run-on sentence is so long, I have to stop and get a breath. It just keeps going. Survive on the mere basics that live as long as they can on what they can find. Scrounge or hunt ... last man standing out of 10 people wins 500,000 ... There's the dots everywhere. They don't...
Yeah, okay.
Watch all the contestants over the course of many seasons in different locations, and every single time they all deteriorate and cannot eat enough without getting animal fats. Animal fats, huh? So it's not just about eating enough calories in general. That part was hard for the contestants, but the few who were able to find an abundance of calories for a while in the form of fish still noticed they needed other stuff besides the fish in their body. It was about what was missing for them constantly.
I always wondered if they make people eat corpse in that
Right.
show or how that works.
Really slow. It wasn't just about getting proper carbs or about plants or meat. It's about all of it, and hung hugely, especially about a balance of eating and getting animal fats. Okay, there's more. Just foraging with a little bit of fish, not nearly enough. Their body quickly became to lose mass and muscle, deteriorate. When they could find meat, they were screwed if they couldn't hang on to the fats or find fatty meat at some point. Just living on rabbits. Not enough, but what about just living on nothing but an entire moose? A guy took down a whole moose, and he couldn't believe how fast he was eating that entire animal all by himself. The meat was not sustaining and kept him full and satisfied. Was not sustaining and keeping him full and satisfied. Okay. Why? Because a moose is a lot of lean meat, but we didn't have the fat he needed. Why? Well, he processed the moose when he took it down, and he had the moose fat separated into buckets. He found it, man, instead of nearly Wolverine, they're more aggressive and nasty. The bears stole an entire bucket of fat, and he didn't. So because because a Wolverine stole a bucket of fat on one of these orchestrated, scripted shows, we should ignore 200 years of meta-science, thousands and thousands of studies over hundreds of years. We should ignore all this because of a scripted reality TV show, where anecdotal things happening in this reality show are supposed to dictate how billions of people eat, according to the dragon anarchist Rose, whatever her name is. Oh boy. So not surprised this is coming out of Larken Rose's corner. So we had a whole moose and had 2 almost devoured, blah, 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 blah. Everything they need. Yeah. So this contestants world. Yeah. So anyway, there's more. It's all on my Facebook. I posted it today, the whole thing. But it's fallacy after fallacy after fallacy after fallacy of like flat Earth, globe Earth caliber of retardation. Is that fucking word? I can't even, like, this is unbelievably mind numbing. What do you think, John Bob? Do you think they're all betas? Do you think they're betas that should fast?
What kind of piece of shit supports slavery and violence? I'm definitely not surprised he's fucking a girl that puts corpses in her mouth. You know, I mean, come on. Think about that. Like, would you make out with a chick after they shoved a corpse in their mouth? Fucking weird, man.
Not these days.
No, ain't no fucking way. That'd be like, I don't know. I mean, I'm an ex-smoker, so I wouldn't date a smoker at this point. I'd consider the meat eaters 10 times worse than somebody that smokes cigarettes, honestly. It's fucking gross, dude. That shit'll give you worms.
What else will it give you, John Bob?
Erectile dysfunction, heart disease, cancer, gout, diabetes. I could keep going. Actually, I think I'm out. But there's 100 other ones. Just I can't think of them right this moment.
Yeah. Oh, damn. Everybody's in the chat hiding. So yeah, we got to get this guy. We got to get this guy into onto the show. This dude this guy here, he's a beast. This guy's rad.
Have him join us.
Instruct some.
Yeah. Woo! Jerem's gonna come up in 20 minutes. I'm gonna be done in 20 minutes. We're gonna, let's see, what do we got? What else we got? Boom. This one I wanted to watch last week. This one I wanted to watch last week.
Is that Nick the
Too
vegan?
many things up. What?
That's not Nick,
Yeah,
is it?
A randomized control trial on people with Alzheimer's by Dr. Dean Ornish, and the study itself describes the diet as a whole food vegan diet, as well as other lifestyle interventions. We'll parse those out. But I've been waiting for this one, and really quickly, this was one of the main reasons that I initially shifted toward a plant-based diet 14 years ago. I was very afraid of Alzheimer's because as a child, I lived with my grandma who had Alzheimer's. This was a lady who was previously not violent, all of a sudden was like violent toward me. My mom saved me, and then she was put in a nursing home. So this one hits like pretty close to home, nursing or my actual home. So this was an important reason for me to shift. I'll talk about why, but it was mostly just theoretical reasons back then when I shifted, though they were pretty valid even then. So we're going to look at this study, we're going to look at the results, and look at one little aspect that annoys me a bit as a vegan. And we're also going to look at examples of people who have had this cognitive impairment and reverse it to a degree.
Did this help reverse some of the symptoms of Alzheimer's?
Yes. Yes.
And that is one person that's in the study and one person that is not. Very interesting stuff. So let's just go. I don't want to spend too much time on background before getting into the results, but I feel like we need to cover just the key point here. And that is all the way back into like the early 1900s. Dr. Alzheimer, the one that discovered Alzheimer's disease, described atherosclerotic or sort of artery disease changes in the brains of these patients. And yes, I've shown you these images a bunch of times before. You can see the brain artery sections of people with Alzheimer's versus normal people. And yeah, Alzheimer's is clogged brain arteries. I have a whole video on that. So where does diet come in then? Well, we're talking about the cardiovascular system, and we have several studies showing improvements in that, whether it's people with heart disease or whatever, and that is likely due to perhaps the lowering of inflammation, but also just the improvement of artery function. And then, of course, slowing the progression of the disease, and that is very likely due to the lower saturated fat and cholesterol consumption, which, of course, results in that lower LDL or bad cholesterol we see in vegans. And high LDL is causally linked to atherosclerosis, the same thing that's happening in these Alzheimer's brains. Of course, there's a bit more going on as well there, but that's the main point. All right, getting to the main study, we're talking about this one here, which was published not that long ago before filming, but I have been preparing for this to come out. It's a randomized control trial in the Journal of Alzheimer's Research and Therapy. And this is one that I thought might have even been 5 years long, like Ornish's previous study on heart disease, because there was a woman interviewed on CNN who had been on this diet for 5 years. But it turns out that this study is just looking at out to 20 weeks or about 5 months, really not that long, which I think is kind of cool because if we can see any results at that time frame, then people will be more motivated to make changes and not think they have to do it for 5 years before seeing anything. And they're comparing this whole diet and lifestyle intervention to a control group. That control group is just standard Alzheimer's care. So they're people who are still getting some care. And the number of subjects, they were aiming for 100 initially, but it turns out, they're recruiting during the pandemic and they ended up with 50 in the end. But, we'll see. They still have statistically significant results in many areas. And a key point here is that these aren't people who have super advanced dementia or Alzheimer's. These are people who have Alzheimer's that has led to mild cognitive impairment or dementia. And in particular, they have to be over a certain score on the MOCA scale, which no is not you being rated on how well you drink a mocha latte. It's the Montreal Cognitive Assessment Test for dementia. Not as good tasting. And mild, well, it sounds mild and it's obviously not as bad as severe. It's still very notable. Just to alzheimers.gov. Quote, signs of mild cognitive impairment include losing things often, forgetting to go to important events or appointments, and having more trouble coming up with words than other people of the same age. Now, everybody forgets things to a degree, but not like this. We're talking about worse than people your same age. And it could be the case that a lot of this mild cognitive impairment is driven by actual artery changes. Perhaps they're just more mild. They haven't fully taken over yet. Now, there's a lot more details that we can go through a bit later in this video, but I just want to hit on those results right now. Well, first of all, we have this chart, which is one of the stars of the shows here. We're looking at overall clinical dementia rating, which in the control group went up as expected in people with Alzheimer's. But the wild part, that plant-based diet group went down. That means their overall clinical dementia severity was decreasing, which is like blowing my mind. It should blow a lot of people's mind. A lot of people did not think that this was possible. Anyway, we have another chart here, which is the Alzheimer's cognition score, which followed the same trend, but wasn't statistically significant. And then we also have a third chart here of clinical dementia progression, which continued in the control group, but stopped in that plant group. I'm just going to call them the plant group. And then we have something called the clinical global impression of change, which I think is just a bad name for it. But we're looking at somebody on a Zoom call, like a clinician, judging the dementia rates of these people blindly as much as is possible, the study says, because, someone's going to get on there and if they have mild dementia, they might just be like, and then I had to eat the vegan diet. All the carrots reminded me of my old boyfriend in the 40s. And they're like, oh crap, I know which one they were. I had to go ahead and just make a chart for this. And we can ask, what is the number of people that improved in this perceived overall dementia cognitive function score. In the control group, the standard Alzheimer's care, 0 people did. But then when we're looking at that plant group, we're talking about 10 people improving, which is awesome. And then we can fill in the rest of the chart with different degrees, and we can see all the way down to the people who got moderately worse, 3 of them in the control group and 0 in the plant group. Also twice as many people with minimal worsening in the control group than the plant group. So just this picture here is pretty amazing. If you were to look at these 2 interventions, whether it's standard care or this plant group and lifestyle, we have a group that you would want your loved one who is facing cognitive decline to be in, and one that you wouldn't want them to be in. That's the key takeaway here. You may be wondering, if the intervention was so good, why were there even people that had some worsening in that plant group? Well, first of all, we have unique cases and causes of dementia. I mean, maybe somebody's lead levels are just through the charts, and it doesn't matter what diet you put them on, it's still going to be getting worse. But then we also just have overall adherence, and thankfully they looked at this and they did get a pretty clear picture. They say, quote, "We found a statistically significant dose-response correlation between the degree of lifestyle changes in both groups and changes in most measures of cognition and function testing." So the people that did worse were very much less likely to actually adopt that plant-based diet and other lifestyle changes than the people that did better. And then we have some other interesting findings. First of all, we have a pretty significant drop in LDL or bad cholesterol in that vegan diet plus lifestyle group. Over the control group, it's like a 25% drop. Again, high LDL causally linked to atherosclerosis. So this adds up here completely. And they point to a particular finding that they said might be, the best biomarker change they saw. And that was a beta amyloid blood ratio. This is amyloid beta 42 to 40 ratio. As another study says, low plasma ratio is associated with a high amyloid beta deposition in the brains. And from the Ornish trial, in the intervention group, they saw a 6.4% increase in the right direction in that plant group, and then an 8.3% decrease in that control group. Not good for them, and highly statistically significant. And like other Ornish studies, he looked at telomeres, which are those caps on the end of your DNA that protect them. In previous studies, he did find that the plant-based and other lifestyle intervention group had a lengthening of telomeres, more protection, previously thought not to be possible as well. But in this case, we're seeing a slight increase, but it just wasn't statistically significant. It wasn't enough. Maybe there weren't enough people. All right, now I'm going to get to my gripe of the study before we get to these amazing anecdotes to match the research. Well, first of all, we have the diet itself, which, yes, is described as a whole food vegan diet. There's no animal products being consumed at all, as well as focusing on whole grains, legumes, and cutting out harmful fats and refined carbohydrates, which is great. But this is where I just facepalmed really hard, and that is if you look through their list of supplements, which is quite long, actually. It's like they just threw a lot of stuff that could work at the wall. One of those things is fish oil supplements. I know vegans are like, oh my God, just barely, because we know that you can get the same exact omega-3s from algae. That's where the fish get them. This didn't need to happen. It could have been considered a fully vegan study instead of a vegan diet plus other stuff study. And I was like, why the heck did they do this? I looked to the funding, and I will say this is funded by a ton of great nonprofit and charitable organizations, and you've got to get money together. But then you can see there a little bit further down in the funding, Nordic Naturals, which of course sells these fish oil supplements. So now the study based around an actual vegan diet is thrown in fish oil and is now going to be used likely by certain companies and stuff to sell fish oil for Alzheimer's, which is, very disappointing, but I guess you got to get money. There's a lot of money that you need to get for these studies. And if there are authors in the study that aren't necessarily ethically vegan, this is what happens. Anyway, they did quite a few other supplements as well. CoQ10, which is an antioxidant, as well as lion's mane, which I have a whole video on that as well. But this brings us to that sort of annoying situation we see with these type of studies where it's like, what actually caused this? Was it the diet? It likely wasn't the exercise. I was like 30 minutes of walking, which we wouldn't see this type of result with. Was it the meditation that they also added? No, we don't have studies showing that it could be that. Lion's mane, we've seen some improvements in one low quality study that I covered in my lion's mane video for cognitive impairment. But, diet, in my opinion, is likely the most powerful factor here. Anyway, let's just hop into some of these cool anecdotes. We have, first of all, this woman who was interviewed by Sanjay Gupta on CNN, and I think it's like a week until the whole thing comes out, but right now we just have a teaser. And Sanjay met with her 5 years ago and then again recently, and from his reaction, she's doing amazingly and appears to have improved her cognitive impairment.
How are you doing now, do you think, as compared to 5 years ago?
Oh, much better. Really? Much better.
Did this help reverse some of the symptoms of Alzheimer's?
Yes. Yes.
I think she's doing very well.
Does it surprise you?
Yes, after seeing her mother and grandmother, yes. Because I was figuring by this time she'd have been at home or something.
And she says that she used to eat veal every day and now doesn't.
My choice of a meal before this was a breaded veal cutlet. I haven't had one in 5 years.
So they should have called her story From Veal to Healed. Anyway, and then we also have a video on the YouTube channel Vegan Linked. This is Jeff going around interviewing a ton of vegan people. He just finds this person in a random vegan restaurant, finds out that they had some cognitive impairment improvements, and it turns out that this guy was just missing 5 years of his life in terms of his memory. Here he is.
The morning that I got up and couldn't remember where my cereal box was, we realized that we had a problem. I had lost, we're still not sure exactly how much, 4 or 5 years of recent long-term memory, and they're still completely gone to this day. I look at those photos and it's like I've been photoshopped into them. If you go back further, my memory's fine. It's like a file drawer got thrown out, and I wasn't making long-term memories, apparently. Got an appointment with our doctor and visited with her, and after a couple of visits, my wife got an email from her, and the final line was, our goal is to keep him independent as long as possible.
But then at the request of the neurologist, Dr. Shirzai, he went on a vegan diet, and here he is again.
Literally within 3 weeks to a month of going plant-based, we were on it. I drove down to a sort of a normal spring vacation trip to the Outer Banks, and I still remember that trip. Sitting here today, 2.5 years later, I've started making new memories within 30 days.
Yeah, so he was just unable to make new memories for like 5 years, goes on a plant-based diet, and within 3 weeks, he's all of a sudden remembering everything after that. So again, just an anecdote, but now we're seeing more of a picture of research backing that up. But I gotta be fair and show both sides. We have another story of a carnivore dieter, Dr. Bobby D. Cutlets, who also claims to have reversed his Alzheimer's on a carnivore diet. Yes, I reversed my Alzheimer's disease eating pure meat. And where'd my steak go? I seem to have misplaced it. Why is there steak sauce all over my shirt? This keeps happening. And then just a final word on mechanism. Again, we have a bunch of different changes here, so we don't really know what it is, but we have seen diet be able to do this in terms of a plant-based diet or an Esselstyn study, a fully vegan diet, literally opening up arteries within weeks, increasing blood flow, likely through increased artery function and artery dilation. And so if you have a certain part of your brain that is starved, perhaps that is enough to just get some more blood flow where you weren't getting it before, whether it was a memory center or whatever. In Esselstyn's study, we saw that in just 3.5 weeks. And in the Ornish study previously on heart disease, we saw a 4-fold increase in blood flow, which is wild, in these people with advanced heart disease in both of those studies cases. So, instead of the heart getting more blood flow, perhaps it's the brain. I don't think that we're seeing just massive shrinking of plaques in this situation, especially a few months out. Maybe there's some, we still need more studies on that, but at that age, it's likely not happening. But I think a key point here is that it doesn't have to happen. But I think as we learn more about lifestyle changes, we might know how to tweak that better and actually get more real shrinkage. And that's why I think we should be literally pouring billions of dollars into this, because it's our leading killer. But no, we don't want to pour that much money into this for some reason. It's annoying. Anyway, in the end, I'm really happy that the study came out. These are results I've been waiting for. They definitely solidify one of the reasons I initially changed my diet. And obviously this could help a lot of people. Losing your memory is super scary, but the more tools we have to fight that, the better. And again, I am annoyed about that fish oil being thrown in there, but if there are people that truly believe that's playing a role, you can get the same stuff directly from algae as a vegan source. So you can still be a practicing vegan in terms of ethics and recreate this sort of study formula with the diet, lifestyle, and the supplements. But besides that, I'm really grateful that this is being done, and it just adds to this long line of Dr. Ornish's research and just reminds me that we need to be doing more research on these super important diseases. Anyway, let me know down below what you thought about all this. And of course, feel free to like, subscribe, share, and all that good stuff. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.
Well, that's good news. What do you think about that, Braxton?
I wasn't able to hear a good amount of it, honestly, but sounds good overall. Got some issues with like StreamYard. What's that?
What's that?
Why couldn't you hear Braxton? What's going on, buddy?
Oh, like StreamYard for some reason when it's I guess whenever I put it on my laptop, like I was just listening to the show earlier on YouTube to see how it's coming through, and it was perfectly fine. But when I get on here, it starts acting up. It's really strange. Got a really old laptop.
It's got to be the laptop. I heard everything clear as day.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like Jeremy when he was when he was first going to Korea, and like his mic would be really.
It was getting clicky. It was clicky.
Yeah, kind of, and like there's a lot of like freezing that happens too. Some tech issues to look into, I guess.
Yeah. So I've gone into it a little bit before, but since we're doing this video today, You could watch the whole video if you want on my Facebook. It's this one right here in the middle, right here. But the sketchiest thing I know about Larken Rose was what happened between him and Justin about a year ago. Basically, after Justin had fallen for a typical Indian crypto scam, like the most typical scam you could ever come across, Justin hits me up and he's like, "Hey, I bought a piece of land. You want to come out?" Or we had been talking for quite a while. He is trying to get me to, like, you know, go off on this piece of land with all these, you know, libertarian people and like start a community. And I was like, I kind of know better than that, you know, at this point in my life. So I probably, you know, won't be having part of that, but keep me in the loop because I have some experience with this, and, you know, I could probably help you at some point, you know, with whatever you're doing. And so he put me in this group with a bunch of other people. And so they're talking about buying land in Mexico. And I was just like, I don't know about Mexico, man. Like, you know, lots of reasons, but it was all about Mexico. And then all of a sudden, he texts me and he's like, "Hey, I bought some land, you know, let's go build it up." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, you know, when did you do this?" And he's like, "Oh, I just did it today. Larken Rose found it for me." And I was like, "Okay, where is it?" And he's like, "Oh, it's in Arizona where Larken lives." And I was like, "Okay, well, what happened with you wanting to do it somewhere else? You know, Arizona is like, you know, not the greatest place. And it's not, you know, it's not as easy as just grabbing a piece of land and moving in." And he's like, no, it's all cool. We're going to all live out there. And I'm like, "Okay, Justin." And so I'm like, where is this piece of land? And he's like, "Oh, it's, you know," he's all, "I don't know where it is." And I'm like, "What do you mean you don't know where it is? So you bought a piece of land sight unseen, you know, obviously probably paid full price for it. You know, like, who does that? Like, did you talk to your, you know, any of your family members? You know, like, did you clear this with anyone? Did you talk to your lawyer? You know, like, you got to get like lawyers together and like do escrow and all this stuff." So he's like, "No, I don't know where it is." And I'm like, "Okay, so maybe I should," you know. And then I was just kind of blown away by that. And then me and Allie had the idea that we wanted to go on a road trip anyway. So we were like, all right, well, we should drive out and check out Justin's land, right? And I'm like talking to Justin, and he's like, "Oh yeah, Larken Rose wants me to buy him like a tractor so he can build my roads." And I'm like, "He wants you to buy him a tractor?" I'm all, "You know, tractors are like a lot of money. They're not cheap. It's not like buying a car. It's like buying 4 cars at once. All, you can just rent a Bobcat for $150 a day and go to town building roads. You don't need to buy a you know, $8 to $20, $30,000, $50,000, $60,000 tractor. You know, like, that doesn't make any sense." And he's all, "Oh yeah, Larken said we might be able to like make money on the side with it." And it's just like, oh my God. So Justin, you're going to move to Arizona and run this tractor business. Is that what's going on here? Like, it's just complete ridiculousness. And I'm like, you don't have to buy a tractor. You know, let Larken buy his own tractor if he wants to buy a tractor and start a business, you know, a tractor business. Don't get involved with people. You know, business collaborations never end well. Trust me, you know, like, so I'm like, "No, you don't need this." And we end up driving out there. And during the time we were driving out there, I'm like, "Justin, you know, like, we're on our way now. Can you get me the address?" Because he kept saying he was going to get the address, right? So I'm like, 2 weeks ahead of time, you know, or maybe a week ahead of time, I'm like, "Hey, get the address, you know, because I'm going to go out and check it out. And I have a drone. I'll fly the drone over it. I'll film the whole thing for you." and I'll send you a video with your property, you know? So he's like, all right, I'll get it. And then like I keep hitting him up and he's like, I'll get it from Larken. 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 I'll get it from Larken over and over and over again. He keeps saying, I'll get it from Larken. And he keeps hitting up Larken. He's like, hit up Larken. I'm just waiting to hear back from Larken. So like the whole week goes by and no Larken Rose.
We don't know where we're going.
We don't know where we're going. Where's the address? You know, where we're going to go. So the day we're driving out, I'm like, dude, because he figured out what city it was in by like looking at some paperwork that he had that didn't even have an address. It had an APN number and like it was like a partial APN number. Like something wasn't right. And I'm like, what's going on here? And so he told me what county it was in. So we started driving towards the county that this place was in because we were going locally anyway. So the whole time we're driving, we're like, Justin, you know, we're driving out here to look at your property. Like, can you give us the address? And he's like, oh, I'm just waiting to hear back from Larken Rose. You know, like he keeps responding, but he won't give me the address. And like, you know, it was always some excuse. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, then finally he gives me like, we're like an hour away from this county and he gives me the GPS. And he's like, oh, yeah, Larken Rose is there. He said it's cool if you go, you know, everything's cool. Everything's cool. What? Larken and Amanda. Yeah, they're both out there working on the property. And I'm like, okay. So it took them forever to give him like the address. Like literally we were like there by the time Larken gave up the address, which kind of makes me think he didn't necessarily want us out there. And he was trying to wait till the last minute possible to give the address in a small chance that we'd just be like, oh, never mind, and not go out there. Yeah. So we get to the county. Since he told me the county, we started doing research on like the local politics and stuff like that, and like how easy it is to like homestead or build a house out in this place. And this county is like the most lib county in Arizona, like full on lib county of Arizona, like the most lib county in Arizona. So of all places, he picks to buy some land in the most lib county in Arizona that you aren't even allowed to cut the juniper bushes on your property because they'll throw you in jail. They'll send the cop, they'll come point guns at you. And the only other houses in the area are like multi-million-dollar ranches and shit, right? Like not the kind of area that's going to allow a bunch of anarchists to live on a property, right? You know, like the exact opposite place where you would ever be able to do something like that. And his property is only zoned for a single family dwelling, which is only one house. And Justin's whole thing is that he wanted to build a bunch of houses, a bunch of cabins on this property. All his women he wanted to bring out there, you know, because his harem that he wants to build. So, because he had told me this story, you know, of what he wanted to do a million times. And so I'm like, how did you end up with a piece of property that you can't do that on when that was your intention the whole time? You've been talking about it for years, buying a piece of land and having a bunch of people go live out there, and you end up with this piece of property where you can't do that. Meanwhile, Larken Rose and Amanda Rashwitz are posting videos talking about their property.
They were referring to it as theirs, huh?
Their
not
property.
I'm not surprised.
So I'm like, Justin, you're getting scammed, bro. Like again for the second time this month, you're getting scammed for a huge amount of money. So by the time, this gets longer. So we get to this property, right? And it's completely impassable to anything but four-wheel drive. which is like kind of cool. But Justin wanted to drive a bunch of RVs onto his property, and there's no way of getting RVs onto this property in any way whatsoever. The road is insanely fucked up. There's no way. We barely got there in our 4-wheel drive Subaru. And there's no way to get onto the property with any large vehicles. The property is like heavily slanted, and it's like a wash for like the rest of the mountain. So whenever it rains, the whole property becomes a river basically. So the second we get there, we look up and there's the biggest 5G satellite tower of death you've ever seen in your life. And the street is called Radiator Road. So it's like you bought a piece of land, a worthless piece of land you can't even get to, under a fucking 5G tower. Like, just absolute batshit, dude. So basically,
how big is this property?
Larken Rose got what?
Why would Larken talk him into this property if it's so bad?
Because it's in his state, and he wants a piece of land to do videos from and make content with. And
you don't like take as much care like looking into something if it's not your own money, right?
Yeah,
like it's kind of just, I'm sure
if
he jumped on it.
Yeah, he just pointed. Oh, here's a cool piece, Justin. I could broker this for you.
Probably cheap for how big it was.
It was insanely cheap for how big it was. I know how much it was. And for how much land. That was the first red flag. He's all, oh, I paid this much for this much land. And I was like, that's way too much land for that little of money. So I knew it's got to be a complete piece of shit land, like complete garbage waste of land. And it is. It's like the worst land you could ever pick to do anything like what Justin wanted to do. So it was obvious that someone who didn't have his best intentions, because they didn't listen to what he actually wanted, chose that piece of land for him. But really, that guy just wanted a piece of land in his neighborhood that he could use for whatever reason, and convinced Justin to waste his money on it. Justin won't ever live on this piece of land in his entire life. He won't ever live there, I guarantee you. And he's definitely not going to do what he wants to do, which was start a little community, which he can't because it's not zoned for that. And the second a bunch of shitbag anarchists show up on that property and start trying to live there, the sheriffs are going to come and stick shotguns in people's faces and tell everyone to leave. And everyone will have wasted all their money and time to get there, because Justin had some BS idea. Justin and Larken had some BS idea that they were going to half-cocked idea. These what do you call them? Brothers in clout. Brothers in clout. Do you know what that term is? Brothers in clout.
No, but I mean,
people that are only friends for clout reasons. Like all these clowns that support, like Jeff Berwick, like they're brothers in clout. They're only supporting the guy because of the clout they get from knowing him. They aren't supporting him for any reason but that. They aren't supporting them because they like the person or anything like that. It's simply because of clout, and that's Justin Pedini right here. And so these guys, have no. It's just. Larken took advantage of Justin 100%. Larken took advantage of Justin being Justin. We all know Justin is Justin. And like I said earlier, there's only so much money. There are only so many people handing out money to anyone in the liberty movement. So obviously, the dill hole that's known for it is going to be a target for scumbags and scammers. And guess what? Scumbags and scammers have been stealing money from Justin Pedini. The whole Jeff Berwick, Louis Mises clan, the whole the Anarchapulco clan, like they're involved in something really weird. But Justin got scammed, like straight up scammed twice in a row by these guys, because he's known as the guy who just hands money out. So it's like you're surprised when these people show up.
Well, look at that shit with Tony Bones, and then there's the Larken stuff, and the cryptocurrency. He's always getting ripped off. My question is, how does he still have money if he's always getting ripped off? The guy's always on the internet. He's always fucking around. He don't work, does he?
His family left him. He's a trust fund kid.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. Because that's why I remember the other night he was all like, "Oh, have you ever donated to any fucking activists?" And I'm like, "No, I don't have my grandma's money that's instantly showing up in my bank account every day to just hand out to douchebags that I want to be friends with." Like, I don't know. It's absolute nonsense. But yeah, Larken Rose is a scumbag. And then you see what he, all these other things. You see all this other stuff, and it's like these people are just like, "Oh, but his body of content." And it's like, yeah, so what? People are not what their body of content is. Like, these people are like delusional. They think these people can't do any wrong when, Larken Rose is fear mongering on his page every day. He's fear mongering, doing the same stuff the government does. Like, chasing that money no matter what.
Yeah.
He made a movie.
Not leading by example. Making a movie. Making a terrible fucking movie. Unwatchable.
Was it pretty bad? I've never seen it.
It's just like your run-of-the-mill fucking Atlas Shrugged. I'm trying to be really brainy, but, like, who knows? It's ridiculous. Yeah, got anything else? What you got, Braxton?
I was gonna say, to the movie, it's like it's a good allegory and everything, but like, it's, when you consider who's making the movie, it's kind of, or at least wrote it, it's really hypocritical because he doesn't apply these principles consistently. So it could have been a lot better of a movie if the person who was doing it had their head and heart in the right place. I'll say that much.
So after that story, this dill hole has this take. Wow.
Well, I'm saying the movie wasn't horrible. I'm just this guy.
No,
though.
After the story I just told you about Justin getting scammed, this dill hole has this take. Yeah, the comment on the screen.
Oh, okay. I was like, what are you trying to say?
I was confused as fuck. Now okay, let me read this. He may be flippant at times, but Larken is not a scumbag. Dude, he literally supports harming
Blatantly
animals.
scammed someone. He's not a scumbag. Right.
He supports
and you know him
slavery.
well, right? Because you watch him on YouTube. Jeff Holman, you know the character, the deep inside character of Larken Rose. Like he's your best friend, right? Like, these people just say the dumbest things to back up these narcissists. It's absolutely hilarious. Like, oh, he's a good guy. How do you know? Because he made some videos chasing money? That's how you know he's a good guy? Holy crap. Did you...
Charles Manson made a pretty good album.
Yeah, he did.
I hear Hitler did a lot of good things for the German people.
Uh-oh. The cat's getting crazy. Steve, come here. Were we going to talk about veganic farming, Braxton, or are we going to do that next week?
Maybe next week. I'd like to prepare a little more for that one.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, I
The
should
lighting?
send you my little video of my new garden I set up.
Oh, yeah? Do it, man.
Yeah, I will. It's
Great.
it's only like 34 seconds. It shows two gardening areas I set up, and then they're both fenced in. So I'm gonna grow stuff alongside the fences, and then within the garden, obviously, and be nice. Now I won't have to
Sean
worry
Bob.
about eating any of my shit anymore.
Are you pooping in your garden?
Oh.
So John Bob, remember the last two beginning of the last two episodes, that guy we watched, that guy Mark Passio, right?
Yeah.
The guy ranting and yelling, calling Justin Pedini a trash monkey and stuff. Have you watched any of that guy's videos?
I don't watch any of his shit.
I think you should check out his natural law lecture. I could send it to you. I think I want to give you an assignment, homework for next episode. I want you to watch this one lecture of his and really listen to it.
Send it to me.
Really good.
Will do. I'll have Braxton send it to you. Send it
Okay,
away,
perfect.
J-Mo. Jamie. Because we're going to start talking about this stuff a lot more. More natural law stuff because that's the direction that we're all going right now with our activism. Yeah, see what Devin says? I knew Devin would like that. Yeah, it's indeed very required. And very easy to listen to. Not like the video that we're talking about is from probably 10 years ago, and he wasn't as bitter as he is now, so it's a lot easier to listen. I'm sure you actually like how bitter he is, but as far as like just his seminar, it's really good and it's really easy to listen to. But I definitely you should check it out so we can talk about it next week.
Okay, fair enough.
All right, dudes.
All right. Good night,
Until
guys.
next week. Talk to you guys later.
Peace.
All right. Peace.